Okay, well, start off with agenda review. First agenda of the year, I think it's pretty good. I don't see any need to move it around. Any of the other board members?
I'm good.
All right.
My only comment would be, since Mr. Cox is here to talk about the scenic resources, do we do him the favor of moving it up one, or would you like to spend the whole evening here?
I'll take you up on that.
I do not blame you.
That would be my only,
Yeah.
only just that it's nice for you to show up, but I just listen to us drone on and on. It's your choice. So we're happy to move. I think we ought to move it up.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. We can move item number 7 up to item number 6. Just swap the spots.
So
those
moved.
two.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And any opposed? And any abstentions? It is now moved. They're putting it at the end so we could have input all the way through. Let's see, approval, comments from the chair and the land use administrator. Hi, everyone, happy 2026. Ryan?
I'm all set.
Comments from citizens regarding items not on the agenda. Mr. Murray, do you have any comments for not on the agenda? Hearing none. Moving on to the approval of the meeting minutes for December 15th, 2025. Do I hear a motion to approve the meetings for December 15th, 2025 with corrections if needed?
So moved.
Mr. Todd has made the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Roseberry made the second. Any discussion? It's quick and concise and to the point.
Yes.
I think she did a great job of number 6, the regional land map. That was quite a discussion. I think she captured that very nicely. So thank you for that.
Seemed good and accurate to me. So all in favor of approving the motion, the minutes for December 15th, 2025, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. And any abstentions? The motion is passed. Moving on to item number 6, town plan readoption scenic resources. That was quick and fast. So Ryan, you want to give us a little intro on what we're doing here?
Sure. Hang on, I'm about to sneeze though.
Because there's a lot of information in here.
Okay, so I guess it was summertime that Brian had met with the Conservation Commission to discuss the process for inventorying these scenic resources and the rationale for doing it. And basically it all stems from our discussions back when we were talking about the energy chapter and how the town can best protect its scenic resources. And we needed a more thorough inventory of what we had and a more robust explanation for why they're in the town plan. And so what the Conservation Commission did was basically brainstorm all of the scenic, we'll get into the nuance of what is considered scenic and all that kind of stuff, but we did kind of a comprehensive, everything that people on the commission thought could be considered scenic went on to kind of a master list originally. And then there was it was broken down into 3 different types. So basically in the town plan right now we just have scenic vistas, but more accurately some of the scenic resources aren't just from a point. And so they've been broken down into scenic vistas, which are the point looking out, scenic areas, which are kind of a more of a acreage, a space on the ground, and then corridors, which are pretty much roads, and they could include trails, basically line features where someone would be limited to a particular route and experiencing the scenic view. And so for those different categories, there was criteria to rank each location. So there's scorecards that are included that we can go over. But what's presented here on the first page is basically the final determination by the Conservation Commission. Tier 1 are things that they really felt were sort of primary importance. And then tier 2 are other things that maybe were not so, maybe not everyone agreed, or it wasn't so obvious that they needed to be protected. But still were significant enough to not be what I suppose would be the third tier, which is stuff that just didn't make the list. So I think the suggestion for the 2 tiers was it'll be presented to the planning commission. The planning commission is going to determine what actually gets incorporated into the town plan. So it could be tier 1 and 2, it could just be tier 1, it could be something completely different. But this is how they organized it, and there's a lot of supporting evidence for how the project was completed or pursued, and then all of the ratings and everything that the individuals did, as well as sort of the forums and all of that. So, Joe, I don't know, do you have an idea how you want to have this discussion?
Go for it, Brennan.
Well, I had a question because you had talked about, and maybe this is more for you, Bruce, because you're the chair of the Conservation Commission, which you both, and Howard, you're on it. So when you said you got together and decided on what was tier 1 and tier 2, you really used the numerical data to make those rankings. I just wanted to make that clear because that's really important, because if we want to make this defensible, because we are starting to talk about in the new information on cell towers that we wrote into the next chapter we'll discuss. We talk about scenic views, and that's where it becomes really important. So I just wanted to confirm that it was based on, and I think by the supporting document, my answer was yes, but I just wanted to be sure that that's how it happened.
So yes. And then once they were all sort of totaled up, we felt like the rankings weren't necessarily reflective of what were sort of the obvious, the highest ranking ones were not necessarily the ones that we all agreed were the most important scenic resources. So everything that's on the list is justified by the numbers, and then the way that the tiers worked out and things like that are maybe a little more subjective, but there should be an explanation for each of those.
So were there any scenic areas, for example, that rated very high, but you put them onto level tier 2?
Bruce, do you know?
Actually, some of the ones that is okay. I said,
Yeah, Mr. Murray, can you hear him? Fine, I just want to make sure that the owl picks you up, that's all.
Yes, I can hear you, and then when time permits, Chair, I did have a couple of questions.
Yeah, I saw you had your hand up. Let's get the quick overview from you, and then Mr. Murray will take your questions right after, if that's okay.
okay. Yes, as Ryan said, there were some that ranked high numerically. I'll cite one example is off of Route 106 out to Markville Road. Sitting that road?
Ascutney Basin.
Sutton Basin, that's what I thought. It ranked fairly high because there's fields there, there's the Black River, there's Little Ascutney, but it doesn't have that visceral feel to it, like this is a great view, and everybody agreed on it, and that was one. We started with 25, and after we numerically ranked them and then ranked them by personal preference, we went back. All this discussed what we saw, how we felt, and we removed 4 immediate. We knew they would make the final cut. No sense in spending additional time on them. I'll just fill in a little more than what Ryan said. We started with a list of 25 sites, views, and those were collected from the current town plan, a list that had been prepared by Jeff Pelton, and then ideas from the commission members. After, we assigned the 25 to the various categories. We had 2 scenic vistas, 5 scenic areas, and 17 scenic corridors. We had a training session with Brian Bosenberg before we went out in the field with our scoring sheets. And it was extremely helpful to all of us. None of us had ever done anything like this before. And on behalf of the commission, I'd like to thank Brian for putting up with us and really showing us what to do. It was very helpful. Brian came up with numerical scoring sheets for each of the 3 categories. Commission members individually went out during the summer and the fall of 2025. We tried to go out singly so that there were no biases between 2 people saying, oh, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? And at the same time, we filled out a site documentation form, which described the view in detail, things like impediments to the view. I'll cite the cell towers, communication towers on Mount Scottney, power lines that are in the way, that kind of thing. And then there were other categories such as future potential for impediments to the view, obstructions or impediments. And those all get jotted down, and it all came together at the very end, beyond just the numbers. So after the field work was completed, the raw data was summarized in a table and ranked by the final score for each view. At that time, as Ryan said, it became apparent that some sites were high numerically, but just didn't cut it the way we thought people would see it. So that we used that to come up with our final rankings. Based on that analysis, 1 scenic vista was deleted, 1 was transferred to scenic linear corridors with a revised name, 1 scenic area was delineated, 1 was renamed, and 1 was expanded and redefined. And 3 scenic linear corridors were deleted. That will list down to 21 sites, and they were additionally ranked tier 1 highest priority, tier 2 secondary priority. And that is the 34,000 foot view of what we did. We documented everything. Almost everything is in that documentation report. The site documentation sheets are in progress. It's a lot to compile. So what you got is you've got a list of 21 sites to consider. They were good, our best cut. And I would be happy to take any questions you have.
Mr. Murray, you had some comments and questions?
Yes, thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the helpful information tonight. So I just jotted down some of my thoughts, and I was reading through the packet before the meeting, and one of the things that struck me is it appears like I'm a property owner on Plains Road. I own a small farm here, a family farm, which is considered scenic based on this assessment. But it looks like only 4 people performed the reviews to develop the assessment without a public hearing, typically they contact property owners. I'm always glad to respond, very accessible, but I don't believe, my neighbor's not mentioned it either, but I don't believe there's been any outreach to get feedback from the public or property owners, at least in my case. And it also appears that in the point system, I have studied methodologies, and it doesn't appear that there was a clear methodology for the categorization here. It seemed rather subjective. And qualitative assessments, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when you're doing something like this, you need to rank order them, and you need to have thresholds or benchmarks. Like, hey, if it reaches this number of points, then this is something we definitely want to establish as in this, scenic category or not. So I think there's some opportunity there that was not taken. Also, there, so not being contacted as a property owner, not having the chance to do public input, only 4 people performing this assessment. I just don't think that's robust enough for the planning commission to make any type of review. In fairness, I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just giving you honest, fair feedback. The other things that concern me, as a property owner, and this is an old farm property that goes back a couple hundred years, and I have 3 access roads on Plains Road. We have major issues with traffic, speeding, like non-local traffic. And so if you establish something like this as a scenic area, we've already had many cases where people will pull over and we find them, even though our property's posted, they'll be hiking the property and you got a bull out on pasture and you have to say, hey, this is private land. There's cattle with horns. You can't be on this property. It's not safe. So I do have safety and traffic impact concerns, but then I also have concerns about, a good portion of my property is not in current use. What if I want to do something farming related? Now I might have restrictions. So as a small farm operation, there are many things that I'm allowed to do within the state of Vermont, within the setbacks, rather easily for my farm operation. Whether I want to build a run-in or build a corral or this, that, or the other, or plant some trees, or even if I wanted to put solar up. I'm not interested right now, but I see this. It was clear in the language that one of the goals was to prevent development and place restrictions. So a property that's been here for 200 years in Weathersfield, how come in 2025 would we establish restrictions on such a property? That causes questions for me and would cause questions for other folks who want to, operate within the current, things allowed to do with their property. The other concern too is I think this seems also rushed. And I understand the desire to move forward with the town plan, but I would just say this seems very rushed. It doesn't seem like the right steps have been taken. And so I would just urge, pump the brakes, shelf it until there can be a more robust review of the impacts. And so I appreciate your time, but that's basically my feedback, having only looked at this a little bit.
Thank you, Mr. Murray.
Who wants to go first?
Howard, go for it.
Yeah, one of the things that I wanted to point out is this doesn't impose any restrictions on anybody's private rights or on their private property at all. The original impetus for this entire plan was the fact that at this point, the public utility control seems to have the right to place cell towers or large commercial solar facilities at their choosing throughout the town. And we've seen this happen in a lot of other towns. Bennington is a classic example where right under the Bennington Monument, they've put a huge solar field. So when you're approaching it from the north, you can hardly see the tower for the glare from these solar panels in front of it. So the objective here was to try to come up with enough of a definition of a view that we considered was kind of indicative of what represents the town and things that the people in town consider valuable views worth keeping, specifically to give us a little bit of leeway in limiting PUC's ability to come in and stick a 300-foot cell tower in the middle of it, or to put a large commercial solar array. This had no impact at all on individuals' rights. You want to do whatever you want with your farm, that's fine. It's your land, it's your right to do it. So this doesn't impose any restrictions whatsoever on
that. Mike?
Yeah. August, you went through a lot of concerns there, so I'm not sure I kept up with all of them. I think maybe, but I might walk back through it a little bit backwards. First of all, this topic, I would disagree with you that it's rushed. This specific document is new and is work that we asked for from the Conservation Commission to help us out. And it quite honestly, we could be very disrespectful and not use any of this at all, which would be which would be sad, I think, because obviously a great deal of work. Thank you, Bruce, and the rest of the Conservation Commission. But the last town plan adopted in 2017 included a list of scenic, I would say those were the vistas. Isn't that what, like when you're driving down the road and you look and you see a long ways, isn't that a scenic vista? Is that what we call a scenic vista?
Generally from a single point or a number of points in a very small area.
Okay, but you kind of see a long ways.
Yes, you have a wide angle of view is the most important part of this.
I'll give a couple of examples, August, and I know that they're in the previous town plan, and that is Skyline Drive looking east, and the other one is the Hunter House looking west. And these are in here. I question where they are in here, but again, this isn't a final document. This was work kind of like we gave to another committee to bring to us, and we're just now getting it. So I do agree that from that perspective that some, any decisions could be rushed. However, the discussion about scenic vistas and how to include them in the town plan has been going on for several years. And we've had lots of guidance specifically from Annette Smith, who got involved with that with us. And Howard started to touch on it. The Public Utility Commission, Act 248, and the installation of either cell towers or windmills or solar, 500 megawatt or bigger solar generating power stations, anything like that. We figure we want to have a real stern say in where those go and how that takes place. And so we got guidance from Annette that said, look, you can't just say, okay, looking west from the Hunter House. You've got to be much more specific with latitudes and measurements and distances, sight lines, all kinds of stuff. So that's kind of what this project came out of, was getting that information for us. And we unleashed them to go over the whole town. That doesn't mean everything that's in this is going to end up in that. And then I like the categories, which I think I look at those categories and like the scenic vistas that we talk about, those might have some restrictions in them. But I think what we had in the town plan before was like maybe 5.
There was 6 of the time.
Six.
I think it's 5.
And this may be cutting that down a little bit. That I would consider the scenic vistas that we're really trying to protect from that type of development. Then you get into the other tiers. I don't think your farm falls into a tier, and I certainly understand you not wanting us to advertise that your farm is a scenic vista, and all of a sudden you got well, let's go to the extreme. TV crews and NBC and everybody out there taking pictures. But we still have quite a bit of work to do here with this. This is not a final document at all.
Yeah, real quick, Dr. Murray had his hand up, then Bruce, and then Brian.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Todd, and thank you, Chairman. Yes, I absolutely appreciate running an old farm here. You've got to have an appreciation for our agricultural heritage, our scenic nature of the land. You've got to love the land, and I think we all share that. So, by all means, I think we all have our hearts in the right place. What I will say is, words mean things, and the changes to the land use regulation have impacts. Under policy, under land use regulation number 2, rural character is quoted. Who defines what rural character is? It's going to place restrictions. One of the goals right in the very beginning is to create an opportunity to deny permits. So you have standard processes, but then you have new processes that would be changed if some of this was accepted. And so throughout this document, these changes do add restrictions that are not currently in place for property owners in these impacted areas. So let's make that clear. And let's not dance around. Let's not play with words. Development shall not result in undue adverse impacts on rural character. Development will not have an undue adverse impact on the town's most significant natural, scenic, or historic resources. So when you say that there's a corridor on Plains Road and it consists of two properties, the Fuller Farm and Plains Brook Farm are we're neighbors, and we're a corridor, our two properties. So that would absolutely then be subject to new restrictions, zoning bylaws for the protection of those properties. So I'm just being clear with you on that. There's no way to tap dance around that.
Yeah, actually, there is a couple ways to tap dance around it, but it's not really a tap dance. This is the town plan, not the zoning bylaws. The zoning bylaws are created from the town plan, but this strong language in the town plan is for the purpose of Act 248, not zoning. Bruce?
But this would become land use regulation if passed as proposed.
That's not necessarily true at all.
Bruce has the floor.
I just wanted to make a point that the only place where these scenic views will be published is in the town plan. It is not our desire or anything else to produce a separate document in an attempt to get people to come to town and see scenic views.
I don't even know that all of the scenic views you've given us, I think you said 21, you started with 25, you're at 21. I don't even know if all 21 are gonna end up getting listed in the town plan yet.
Oh,
We're not there.
Brian?
So a couple of questions, Bruce, for you and your commission. Did you take the current views that are in the town plan and rank those?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure because
It's
I,
not like we rank the ones that are in the town plan, but all the ones that were in the town plan made our list, and then
okay,
they got pared down from there.
because when we started this 3+ years ago, 4+ years ago, we talked about, and just for August, for your information, that I've been involved in this for 3 or 4 years, and the whole driving force was the solar.
Right.
And we're also very concerned about cell towers. I know we're gonna get one. When we're gonna get one, we don't know. But that was really the driving force here. Because part of this, when I read this list, our farm shows up on this list too. And I didn't think of it the way August thought about it. I thought of it more of, we're sort of on a ridge there. And if Verizon comes to me and says, hey, Mr. Bosenberg, I'd love for you to put a tower on your hill there. It's the perfect spot for it. Well, here it is right here about the view. So, I mean, that was my whole idea when we went down this path years ago to talk about the importance of these views and what major impacts that something like a large solar field or a cell tower or possibly even wind, though studies say that's not feasible, but we know what happens with technology. So.
Yeah, and in the 3+ years we've been talking about this, I can honestly say, August, I never thought of yours or Dave's farm as being a scenic view that was even really part of that discussion. So that is new to me. And
For me too.
And this is the time for the comments. You're in the right place making the comments at the right time. It's okay.
Mr. Murray, you have a comment?
Yes, thank you. I do enjoy this dialogue because it is helpful, and I think something else that is helpful to us is the understanding what Tier 1 means, and if one of these scenic areas is categorized as Tier 1, what does that mean for the property specifically? What does that mean for town government limitations that would be new? So I just want to share that with you, that's a question that everyone should ask, and that's a question that everyone has to understand. What are those impacts years down the road, decades down the road, when our children own the property?
And I was going to ask that same question.
So I think so this is the first time the planning commission has seen this list. The conservation commission had just sort of settled on it at the last meeting right before the new year. So it is sort of very preliminary in that sense. And I think the tiers were designed as a presentation to the planning commission. None of this is in the format of the town plan. It's just basically a report for the planning commission to start to think about and filter through. And so there's no legal definition for the tier system other than the conservation commission said that these are the ones they think are the highest priority. Tier 2 is still worthy of discussion, but are distinguished from Tier 1 in their significance, I suppose. So that's all that it means. It doesn't have any kind of definition.
And that right there would raise a concern for me because that's where I found the westward view from the Hunter House was in the tier 2. I would think that would be a tier 1.
But I interject here.
But I guess, I mean, that's,
First, I want to say thank you to the Conservation Commission for doing our homework on this. This was a big monumental task for sure, and there was a lot of work put into it. And I do appreciate you guys doing all of that very much. Brian, you had some stuff that I had some more comments and stuff, but
Yeah, I just wanted to also follow up on what you said, Joe, was that, you know, the documentation you did here is really first class. You guys put a lot of work into this. I think the ranking and the way you describe things is really good. You spent a lot of time on this. There's a lot of information here. And then the questions I had was back to the Conservation Commission. Maybe we should ask you for a definition of tier 1 and tier 2. That was one of the questions I had. You know, from your perspective, what defines a tier 1 view or tier 1 category or tier 2 category? Because I think that would help us all understand your thinking. Because you've been at this for 6, 7, 8 months here now, and I'm sure everyone has ideas of what that could be. And then I guess my other question was, if we wanted to skinny this list down, I know that did you rank these in a great example of scenic areas. So was the Weathersfield Center Historic District #1 for your commission, and the Perkins Village from Maple Street to the bridge over the Black River #2, or they just sort of ended up on the list?
They ended up on the list.
Okay, I
They
think
are not ranked.
it would be helpful for me if the Conservation Commission could say, okay, guys, going from 1 to 10 here, or 1 to 4, tell us which one's #1, which one's #2, and which one's #3. I think that would be very helpful for me to understand your thinking without, I mean, you put a lot of effort into this, and I know that you scored things, but then you had a very, I'm sure, robust discussion about which ones stay in and which ones stay out and where they drop from tier 1 to tier 2. So that would be very helpful for me.
oh, you were about to say something. Dr. Murray had his hand up, and then Brian.
Thank you. And I'll keep it kind of short. So just a few more questions for you all to consider is, Ryan mentioned that you established tier 1 for the highest priority, but once again, what is highest priority for me and highest priority for what? What does it mean? And then some sites, like if you look at the my property, okay, if my property and the next property are a scenic corridor, but really shouldn't be established as a scenic on the scenic list because it's just not logical. Some other properties in town might be more suitable to be historic properties, and that's where a recommendation would be, hey, maybe if your property is 200 years old and it's been historic farm, maybe it should be a historic property, and that's a different level of paying respect for working land. The last thing, which goes back to my first point, is it's never smart to vote for something that you don't fully understand, because you could be voting for something that has unintended consequences or more problems down the road. So my general feeling on boards and commissions and such is don't vote for something that's not clearly understood or needs more work. Obviously, a lot of good work and effort went into this, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to provide feedback, public feedback tonight. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Brian?
Just want to try and explain the tiers again in a different way. There was originally a discussion about what should be recommended to the planning commission and what should not. And so that was the discussion. And then we wound up with another category where there wasn't consensus, where it was too wishy-washy. And that's where that tier 2 came from, is sort of organically, like we got this pile of locations that we haven't been able to fully agree should be on the list or remove. So that's where that come from. There wasn't any kind of criteria for this is a tier 1 level and this is tier 2. It was just, this are the ones that we all think should be recommended. These are the ones that that almost didn't make it or there wasn't consensus about. And just to use the view looking west from the Hunter House as an example, that was one that was in the town plan before. As it was ranked, It's an incredible view for half of the year, and then then it goes away. And so there was a lot of discussion about the seasonality of it. Yeah, there's a lot of different sort of characteristics particular to each one that made it rank out differently.
The only comment I would make to that, if I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Is you might only have the view for 6 months out of the year when the leaves are down. But when you put something up in the middle of it that's there for the next 25 years, that doesn't go away that 6 months when you want to enjoy the view.
Yeah, and
It's there.
that's half of the commission's opinion.
Right.
And that's why I think it'd be really helpful for us to have you go back and really define the tier 1 and tier 2 and say, these are the things that helped us make the cut. And now that you said, yeah, tier 2 is sort of the wishy-washy stuff. Okay, I understand where that discussion was going, but some more, believe me, what you did here is phenomenal. There's a lot of work here. I think it's really first down.
So my other comment was basically that just like anything, once you do it once and you go all the way through, you realize what you should do next time, and how it could be done differently. And really the goal here was to improve what we have. The 5 that are in the town plan, we were told are not good enough the way that they're in there. So we needed to do something.
That's right.
So this is a tremendous improvement over what there is.
Absolutely.
And I think the planning commission's task will be moving forward to whittle it down, make sure the justification is there and all of that. But yeah, this is just the very first presentation of what this is. So I don't want it to feel like.
I don't think we intended on voting on this tonight.
No, I
either.
didn't see that.
I wanted to make sure Dr. Murray understood that. There's going to be more discussion here.
No intention. I was going to ask one of my other questions or thought for the commission, they might not like this, is but they go back and take another pass at these and say to yourselves after thinking about them for a couple of months, is this really the list that you see? Is this really what you're passionate about based on all the information and all the legwork that you did? Can you whittle the list down?
I think something that might be helpful would be to sit down and talk about the criteria, and maybe now that we have a more refined list, then we could talk about how to better do the scoring, because there was a lot to it, and now that we kind of went through it once, we might be able to simplify it a little bit to make it a little bit clearer for the justification, because I think to justify it now, you'd have to go through a really long explanation, and maybe that's sort of the next step, however that gets incorporated.
So one interesting exercise you could do is you could take 2 of these and rescore them.
Mm-hmm.
Go back out and rescore them, like starting fresh. And just go, okay, and we've been through this process.
I think
we learned it.
It would be great if the planning commission would whittle down this list, and then that feedback goes back to the conservation commission. So it's not just one board working on it. It's a little more collaborative.
I would start with the focus on the 6 that are already in the town plan and apply this data to those 6 to start with, and then see how they shake out. That would just be my starting point.
Bruce said that they're already in here, but
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bruce.
You're asking us to possibly whittle the list down, so I understand that fully. By saying that, it seems to me that you have a number in mind of how many you want.
No. I just try to put a little pressure on saying, okay, having done this before, you get excited and you find all these great views and you want to include them because you're passionate about them. You spent months working on them, but sometimes when you revisit them and you go, okay, reality is what's really the top cream of the crop. I guess that's really what I'm looking for.
When I hear scenic and think of something along those lines, the first things that come up to me is like the vistas and the areas. I don't think about corridors and stuff like that. I think of like, okay, you got 131 from Downers to Ludlow. Good section of that is a scenic corridor designated by the state. But still, we're looking at protecting the big wide open areas that can be impacted by cell towers, solar fields, things like that at the grander scale. I don't think we're going to come across too many of those in the corridor areas per se. My other question on this though is, by having this information here and having it, us go through it, get our input, and send it back to the Conservation Commission to kind of whittle it down or whatever. That throws off our timescale for the town plan a lot.
That was gonna be my next
So,
question.
that being said, we have 6 areas that are already in there. All we needed were basic coordinates and things like that, correct? To be able to bring it up, or,
They needed to be justified.
so we need definitions for those justifications to be able to.
You need ranking criteria.
So that's where we should really focus 100% of our attention right now, is on what we already have in the plan that we want to keep there. And have those definitions brought forward so that we can put in there to satisfy the town plan, and then we can come back with the other ones that are definitely worthy, noteworthy, all of that in there. Because there are other places that, you know, are absolutely could be added into it. But let's take the energy and put it into what we already have to satisfy the document that we have to get done. How's the rest of the board feel about that?
I'm sort of two minds. On this, my first thought was, you know what, we just leave it the town plan the way it is. And we just move on and we continue to work on this, and maybe by midsummer, late summer, we have something we're really happy with. Instead of trying to, I just worry if we're gonna go back and then rank the existing views. I'm just wondering if we're doing double work. Just wondering, we just leave the scenic views in there now. I know they're not ranked, they're not really defensible, but we're off to a really good start here.
And as Dr. Murray was kind of requesting, get this right before you.
Yeah.
Do anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, that was my sort of feeling from when I read this last week. I went, wow, there's a lot of information here.
There is.
And there's a lot to discuss that we're not gonna be able to do in one meeting. We may have to have I was almost thinking we almost want to have a special meeting or one planning commission meeting devoted to this topic, because there's a lot of information.
Another thing that goes along with this, we're talking about language and structure and whatever we're gonna put in there. It's gonna be a map too.
Yeah,
We gotta get all the stuff on a map.
We probably do need.
You're not done.
So
Right, we got a good, really good solid base here
Oh, yeah.
to work on, and I
So
cannot
that-
stress that enough.
That might be the best idea. I mean, because like you said, the town plan's a living document. Gives them, you know, they don't have to rush. We certainly don't want to rush.
we can't rush.
No. And so we can get the document right in the end. And when it's done, we can submit it and put it in the town plan.
Right, and we've done that before.
Absolutely.
Some of my quick takeaways from it was just a better definition of the tiers, like listed in the document itself. The definition of the priorities when it came to, just basically definitions in there, kind of like how we have that in the town plan. You know, we go through everything, then there's a whole different section of just definitions. I find that really useful for just clarity.
So there is a section of definitions like related to the process, but the tiers aren't defined. We didn't even talk about the word tier. We just figured we'd show up and say, this is the report, here you go. So, but things like what is a vista, what is a corridor, all those things are defined.
Yeah, I saw that in section 2.
So, Mr. Chairman, what about the idea of that Ryan brought up, that we go out and look at these as a commission?
I think the Conservation Commission is gonna need some more concrete input rather than go back and try and whittle it down. I think they'll be sort of spinning, like, we just whittled, that's what we worked on, you know? So I think they need some more clear direction and say, these ones shouldn't have made the list in our opinion because of this reason or something. Or more specific goals rather than just keep trying.
And we're gonna have the documentation for the scoring cards coming through for about the next month or two. When would that?
It's all in here.
It's all the way, I didn't get all to.
It's all in infinite detail. It is all in there.
Okay, so I was gonna go through
Even for one member that didn't participate, it's in there.
and. Okay, I see. I hear about that. Yeah, I want to kind of. Go.
I mean, if you really take the time to read this, there's a lot of stuff going on here, guys. It's a very thorough look at things, and I really appreciate the amount of work that went into this.
So so in the meantime, can the actual definitions that I think we're looking for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, can that be created now? Either by them or by us, or a combination or whatever.
So once we do the tier, what are we gonna do?
The tier system wasn't gonna be something for the town plan now. That was just to present it to you guys and say, here's some.
Okay, so totally forget about that whole thing.
The town plan is just gonna include a list.
Okay,
That simplifies everything.
okay,
We'll handle it.
go ahead, Bob.
I was just going to add to what Ryan said. And what Brian said. If we rank all 21, the tier system goes away.
Dr. Murray?
The ranking speaks for itself.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump in and just add that if you're reassessing things, you really have to look at impacts on the property owners, and have very concrete understanding of what those impacts are, and also roadway impacts. For instance, like this road has lots of damage from travel. Just most of our roads are dirt roads, and once something becomes a designated scenic site, it's going to show up on maps, guides. And there's going to be travel, and it's going to have other impacts on the property owners. And some properties are right on the road. So I just would say impacts on property owners is important. Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Any other discussion from the board on this? We are basically gonna work with what we have for the plan. Let this get refined more, but we need to come through and whittle down and give them priority, so.
I think they're looking for some solid
Yeah,
feedback.
but we probably won't come back to this. And now until after we're done with the town plan.
Right.
So
Which
we
is
talk
okay.
about strategic planning tonight too, so we can sort of prioritize what our next projects are.
Yeah. Yeah, so it could be a couple of months before we get back to your commission, Bruce, and say, okay, we looked at this and this is our collective opinions. Because based on the amount of work that we have to do right now, I'm not sure we're gonna find the time. Plus, it's also winter, and as you know, you prefer to look at scenic views when there's no snow on the ground.
We currently do not have a town plan. It is expired. And that freezes pretty much everything. Even has an effect on grants that the town can get. So we're trying to wrap up the chapters and get through them, but something like this definitely needs a lot more work.
And that's why I think
no way we'll have it ready for
That's why I think we should just leave what's in the town plan under scenic
now.
and just move on, and then we'll come back and amend. Once we get through this.
Go ahead.
If you leave what's in the town, currently in the town plan now, would it be helpful if we, the commission, assign rankings to it?
Yes. That way then that gets put into this mix here, we can better look at your ranking sheets and say, okay. Because you gave us a lot of information to digest, and I spent a couple hours looking at this, and that wasn't nearly enough. To fully understand what happened here, but if you rank those other views, then we're really comparing apples to apples. Or apples to maybe oranges once in a while.
And are you talking about for this update? In time for this update to get those? Is that what you're asking?
We're not gonna do it, there's no way you have to.
I didn't know if he just provided the sheets that they filled out.
Oh, if they're already done, sure.
They've all been ranked. They're all part of this.
If it's already been done, then sure.
If you're just looking for the justification for why they're in the plan,
That's
we
perfect.
might have that.
Okay,
All right.
that'd be really.
That's what I said, for the 6 that are in there.
Yeah,
Let's
that'd be
do those. If
useful.
you got those.
The only thing it doesn't show that there was any kind of ruling out of anything. It's just said the town randomly came up with these locations and they ranked all of them, and this is how they ranked, but there's no comparison against things that didn't meet the cut or.
So this is sort of a Band-Aid approach to the bigger.
Okay, and then it just puts a space in the plan to build it up.
Yes.
I think it's more important to have someone go out and assess the views, and you have them. Where they end up 8 months or a year from now. One might disappear, I don't know, I mean, it's possible, but I don't think so, but I understand now what you're saying, Ryan, okay.
Okay, so we'll get the definite or the actual ranking, which we have in here. They're all in this document here, the actual rankings on it, so if you guys just send that to us and let us know exactly where they sit on there, we can put that into the town plan, satisfies that. And then we can visit this whole project when we can give it the time that it really needs. And sooner than later, but we all know how bogged we are with everything.
Thank you, Bruce.
I really do
That's an
appreciate
amazing job you guys did.
all the work that was put in.
One other comment,
Sure.
and has to do with Dr. Gore's initial comment about public input. It was our initial thought to involve the public. We didn't want it to be just the commission saying, these are the scenic views in town. But with the time constraints that we had, it wasn't feasible, and I believe I even said something in the supporting document.
We did.
That, future work should include the public. We wanted to include at least 2 members of the public. And, if you're talking about having the final documentation by the end of next summer, I'm not sure we can do that. And involve the public.
Yeah, and that's okay too, but at least the steps are taken and there's a process in place and we're moving in some kind of direction. And I mean, maybe one of the things that has to happen, that I've seen is that you have like we did for the Hoisington Field plan, we had a public outreach at the schoolhouse on a Saturday and invite the public, and we had pretty good turnout for it. 30-40 people show up for that and have them give input on that. So anyway, there's lots of ways to achieve that, but you're correct. I mean, it probably won't happen by the end of the summer,
Be nice, but
but at least we're moving in a direction.
So much of it was building it as we went, and so we wanted to involve the public, but there was so much right off the bat. Here's the inventory system, and then we go out and try and like this doesn't make sense. There was too much just sort of like trying to establish it to involve the public at that point.
then when we get this cleaned up and it comes back to us again, we could also do the same thing here, have a public input. I think a joint type of public input or something like that. You guys are gonna be the best place to have that, because you know the intricacies of doing all of this. I always love to get the public's input however possible, and sometimes it's easier, sometimes it's harder, that's for sure.
Us getting this done so that, not this done, but doing what we did, where we're just gonna use the 6 that are there and a little bit of data that we already have. We can move forward with the chapter, get the town plan done, then we've kind of got an open forum for as long as we want to do what we need to do and get this done. We don't have to, we're not really running on a timeline. When we get it done, then we'll go through the hearings and add it to, update the town plan. Right. So that'll work best for everybody. You'll have those public forums.
Those
Everybody
are
wants a
important.
meeting.
Those are very important for this.
Absolutely. And I cannot stress again, thank you and everybody at the Conservation Commission for all this work. This is no small amount of information, and it took you guys a long time, and I really do appreciate all the work that was put into it. So the rest of the board does as well.
Thank you. Thanks for your time tonight.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you for lovely weather to drive in.
While I can.
Did you bring sports? Did you bring a little sports car?
No. That's tucked away in the bag in the garage.
Safe journeys home.
Thank you, guys.
All right, moving on to item number 7, which is former item number 6, municipal services and utilities facilities chapter.
Okay, we'll keep this very quick because we have a lot to do on the goals stuff. I talked to Wendy Smith, who is on the Ascutney Water District board, to go over some of the things that they've done recently and to make sure that what we're talking about aligns with what they're talking about. And so I added a little bit of language and some goals. I added a paragraph, line 60 through 66, that was basically newer information from my discussion. I think everything pretty much aligned with what we were talking about. There's just some new information that I was able to add. And specifically lines 73 through 81, there's a few new actions that were basically things that Wendy had said that the board is working on. And so right now, the way she explained it was they're at capacity due to limitations in water storage and problems with leaking and monitoring meters and things like that. So they're in a phase of stabilize the system, stop the leaks, get meters to all the people who are tied into the system, so that that's all standardized. Address the storage capacity, and then the well capacity itself should be able to serve more than what's on there. They're at capacity due to staff and problems. So once the system is stabilized, it should be able to be expanded upon. So do you have questions on what's in here?
I do. Line 60. For someone that's not in the know, no one, who's Otter Creek? Should say Otter Creek Engineering, correct?
It should, yes.
Because when you said property management, I thought it was a landscaping company or something, you know, that was my first reaction, and I went, oh, Otter Creek Engineering in Middlebury.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
I went to the brewery.
Oh, that's right, I forgot about that.
We're gonna have real good water. Well, along with the whole line 60 there, so we're right above it, we're in line 55, the town supports expanding the public water system service area and abandoning unnecessary private wells. And then we go right into basically a paragraph saying, we want to expand the system, but we can't right now. Then those two paragraphs feel contradictory.
I felt the same thing, Joe, until I read the end of the first sentence where it says, and plan for repairs. And then it talks about a bid was awarded to fix that. So this, to me, means that it's doing what the challenges are in line 55 is the way I kind of read that.
Should I swap the paragraphs?
Yeah,
What's an easy fix?
I tripped over the same thing you did after I got over Otter Creek landscaping.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. No, that's an easy fix on that one.
Yeah, good catch.
It was just enough to kind of like, okay, I understand exactly what we were getting at from there. Any other board comments on that section?
We spent a lot of time on this.
Yeah, nice maps.
Nothing else had changed.
283 has chapter 12 list highlighted. That's just for a future link, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Okay. And everything else stayed the same on here.
Yes.
Except for the
Action goals. From the goals.
Ryan, we saw 647. We saw these before, didn't we?
647.
The
Recreation goals. Yes.
Okay.
So we went through I think in the last meeting we had just like a long list of all the different things. This was my reduced one, so I think you've seen all that.
Okay. It sounded familiar, and I couldn't access the previous. For some reason, I couldn't open the previous document.
Okay. And then the next thing that we'll go through when we're ready is going to be goals and actions, and so there's room for discussion there too.
So does this make us at a final draft of the municipal services, utilities and facilities?
I think so.
Motion.
The only thing I think I might have had a line highlighted there to check with Brandon about whether I had it right that there's a water director, a water operator, and Brandon was serving as the water director at one point. I know someone from the highway department is now serving in some kind of capacity, so I just want to get the structure right.
Would you feel like we're good enough here to send this up to the select board and have them do a preview?
Yes, and I'm not exactly sure how the select board is going to do that review. We now have probably 8 or 9 chapters to review with them, and I don't know if that means that they want us to come in for 3 different meetings to go over this stuff and drag it all out like that, or how they're going to want to do it. I asked Brandon for the first meeting in December and then the second. It didn't end up working out. So basically they're all online. And I asked him to report to the select board and say, they're all there. Please check them out. And when I come, we'll have questions, but I don't intend to go through each chapter real thoroughly. So I'm not sure how that's going to be handled at this point. When it was one at a time, it was easy enough, but now we want to warn a hearing this month. So I don't know how that'll be handled. So to answer your question, yes, I think this is our final.
We need a motion to approve the final draft.
Yeah,
Make that motion.
All right, we have a motion to approve the final draft of municipal services and utilities and facilities. The motion's been made by Mr. Todd, seconded by Mr. Rosenberg. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
I,
Any opposed, signify by saying nay. And no abstention, well, any abstentions? No abstentions. The motion is passed. That is amazing. Now going on to item number 8, town plan readoption goals and actions. We'll be here for a minute.
Yes. And just so you know, I'm jumping on the call so I can share my screen at some point.
Oh, okay.
Okay, where are we?
86 of 117.
6. Okay, so this was quite an interesting activity to try and reconcile all of the different goals and actions and things that we had prescribed and try and format them and things like that. What I ended up doing was, I guess I'll just start right at the top. The primary goal, that's not a stated goal necessarily, that's just how the town plan opens and it sort of sets the tone for what we're talking about. So it is a goal, but it's not necessarily one that's listed there, just something to sort of keep in the back of your mind. I went through, these are all organized by chapter, the different goals that are in there. I just wanted to get the language sort of congruent between them all. And formatting, and in the process of doing that, I read through each one, and then had sort of nitpicky changes and things like that. I think you've seen a lot of these goals that show up in green already. The ones that are in black are maybe they've been there for a while. And then the ones in green, I think we went over at the last 1 or 2 meetings. So for example, in the natural scenic historic resources chapter, we had a list of goals at the end. And then after reorganizing and trying to figure out how to format it, I added a goal under each category or each section to sort of explain why are we even talking about this and what is our goal related to that. So those are all somewhat new, but I think you have seen them. But either way, they show up green because they're.
So I have a clarification question. If I go back, I go through your sheets here and you have number 10 flood resiliency, and then I go to the next page and then it has the land. So you took everything that's in the old stuff and then you grabbed stuff out of here and made this new document on top.
Okay,
Yes?
kind of.
Yeah.
Page 92 in the packet, that's where you're saying there's a change.
Yeah, we
That is where I went and added all of the actions. So if you took the first document with all the goals,
Yep.
I should have put a divider in there. But if you took that and you accepted all changes that I had made, then I copy and pasted that document with all the corrections accepted, and then I went and added all the actions under each goal. So what you'd see page 92 on is all the goals as they are above with all the changes accepted.
Gotcha.
So if there are things that you don't want to accept or that still need changing, that's all still on the table. But because I wanted to try and progress a little bit further, I just said I'm going to accept this and then go through the actions. And so what I'm going to share my screen for is this, I don't know, 18 pages of actions is really hard to try and understand and reconcile and see how does that really like direct the town to do anything. And so I'll show you how I put it in a spreadsheet and organized it. And there's probably 10 actions that are like the planning commission should amend the zoning regulations for X. And so what that really means is there's one project. It just has lots of different actions scattered around the different chapters. But if you look at them all and pull them out in the right way, you can really reconcile it as one sort of individual task, I guess. So maybe the best thing to do before going through all of this stuff is to show you that spreadsheet, and then you'll sort of have a full picture of what we're looking at. And then the other thing I'll mention on page 92, there's a couple of policies that were left over from when we were talking about policies more. And I, for the most part, had done away with policies in the town plan and said, if we need a policy, it is now an action to create a policy, rather than say, this is the town's policy, because it's not really something that's been discussed that thoroughly. So
Sounds like you were working on your vacation.
I did. I had to work on the vacation, but it was productive work anyway. That's one of those things where it's like, I know there's a big mess, I'm gonna need to clean it.
And you were sleeping at night.
Yeah. So let me pull that up real quick. Share some else. Share. Good. So let's clear my screen so I can work on. All the actions. There's 121 actions that we've called out. I put them all in here.
You sound needy.
As I went through and read them all and edited them all, I assigned a responsible party for each one. Those are all subject to change. Some of them involve multiple boards. But the next thing I did with this was to sort it by the responsible party. So the Conservation Commission is tasked with these 23 things. Again, there's more in there that's just sort of redundant because they're in different chapters and things like that. So I copied all the Conservation Commission related ones, sorted them by, actually I tried to identify what type of a project they are. And so I could break them down into, there's inventory related projects, planning related projects, develop plans and strategies for the preservation, conservation, blah, blah, blah. Implementation, which is more like physical producing of something, and then promotion, which is like the Conservation Commission will create resources to promote the awareness of local farms and products and things like that. I tried to lump those things with keywords of like what those projects entail. That didn't really pan out, but let me show you what resulted. So if you lump them into these, I call them projects, they're really more like themes, I suppose, but you could think of them as individual projects. There were 3 actions that we called out in 3 different chapters. They were all promotion type actions that we described, and they were all related to agriculture. And so really what we're saying with these 3 actions is the Conservation Commission is being tasked with promoting the rural economy in these ways. So build public support for communities' farms, utilize non-regulatory tools and educational programs to encourage the production of locally produced goods, increase local awareness of working lands and towns and the products they produce. So those all make sense in the chapter that they're in. But they're really saying kind of the same thing. And so the Conservation Commission could look at this and say, okay, so one of the projects we're going to work on this year is figuring out what farm products there are and how are we going to make people know about them. So I think once we get it to this point, it finally becomes something that's a little bit more attainable, because with that list of 18 pages, all related, all broken down by chapter, don't really tell you all that much unless you go through it. So I think what I'm kind of proposing is for an appendix of something that looks like this, where it's broken down and lumped together and things like that.
This makes so much more sense to me.
Because I want the town plan to be something that's useful and not just redundant and scary.
That's useful.
And so this is a lot better. It's like a to-do list for 8 years. So we could even break this down. I tried to do it by year, and then I was like, it wasn't all that helpful. I was getting too into the weeds and needed to go back to vacation. But I did it for the Planning Commission. So there's the vast majority are Conservation Commission and Planning. Oh, this is by party. Conservation Commission and Planning Commission. There's some that are Land Use Administrator, Highway Department on one, Select Board has some stuff, town manager. And that was all just sort of a spur of the moment decision that we can talk about. But planning commission, this is actually in your packet at the end because I wanted to go over it related to strategic planning that we're going to do after this. But so under the category of bylaw updates, I see 5 or 6 different bylaw related subjects to address. So we have, I don't know, what is this, like 6 or 7, 8 different flood resiliency related bylaw amendment actions in different chapters. What I think that looks like in practice is we're gonna someday sit down and say, okay, we're gonna start working on the flood resiliency stuff, and then this is gonna guide how that discussion goes.
Right.
Bylaw update, town plan update, subdivision regs, those were both minor. There's some economic development type stuff that didn't really fit into another category, but really of the 30 something things assigned to the planning commission, it's like 6 bylaw update projects and a couple other different things. So if you like this format and the idea of an appendix that shows this, maybe the most productive thing, and we don't necessarily have to do it tonight unless we want to try and get through it, is is the page 92 in the packet. We can go through the language there, who's assigned to what, and we can make any changes that you see. Or up to you if you want to push it off to have more time to sit with it.
I think we ought to take a stab at it.
Okay,
What does everybody else think?
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
fine with that.
right?
We got time.
let's start with page 92 then. Okay, and then before we get into it, the policy thing, it was difficult to start with the land use chapter because I was like, why we want to get rid of these policies, and I tried to change them, but they were things that didn't really seem as easily transferable to an action. So policy and development in the Weathersfield shall maintain the traditional historic New England development pattern compact design. That's not really something that I could make into an action, and it kind of is policy in that that's sort of what the town plan says is what we're trying to do, I suppose. So after going through a couple of those, it's really only the land use chapter that has these sort of policy related things, and I'm wondering if we want to have a policy section that says these things, because it doesn't really fit with the goal action structure of everything else. That doesn't need to be the conversation tonight, though, just sort of explanation of these comments.
Because when I look at this and so under number 1 there, you have the first policy, number 1, and then I go under the goals down at the bottom that start with maintain or improve the character of the villages and hamlets. It's almost the same thing under number 1 again.
Right.
So to me, it seems like, as you suggested, maybe we need just 3 bullet points of a policy and say, okay, here's a policy, the rest are goals.
And I think it makes sense in the land use chapter where it's so high level that's where you would put that. We don't really have policies related to transportation other than policies that have been voted on, individually.
And then your comment under that, it should really be a bylaw. Well, yes.
Right.
Maybe just get that out of there.
So do you want to go through the actions and see if you agree with the responsible parties and word changes?
Yeah, I think the policies are a great place to start, and then
the actions are.
So for number 4,
Yeah. And then so a lot of this wordsmithing was I wanted all the actions basically are congruent in that they start with an action word rather than the explanation. So that's a lot of the formatting changes are just simply that. And this one was pretty obvious because the original language said the Conservation Commission shall work with the Planning Commission. So therefore, I said the Conservation Commission and Planning Commission are responsible for this action.
right?
Same with the next one.
I mean, these are really some of the key things we've talked about over the last year.
Yeah, I like the
Sorry, Jim?
I'm just saying, I like how we did this.
So under let's see, this is page 93. But it really starts on 92 at the bottom there, number 2. Maintain village center designation for Scotty and Perkinsville. The Act 250 exemption would not apply under Tier 1A due to the lack of municipal and water sewer. Land within the Scotty Water District may qualify for Act 250 exemptions under Tier 1B. And I asked Jason about doing that. And he said there were certain criteria we had to hit for that. Do we need to, and I don't remember what that was, but is that something we should add to that? I can look back from my notes from the meeting.
Should we add that the town should be attempting to meet that criteria?
Yeah, because there's certain benefits. Once you get the Tier 1B, it opens some funding doors.
Does it? I thought it was only Act 250 exemptions.
I thought there was something,
The designation program would allow for different funding mechanisms.
maybe that's where I'm confused then.
And then this comment about Tier 1B is largely forced by the state saying you need to recognize or you speak to the Act 250 exemptions one way or another. Yeah, I can't remember what the criteria would have been other than it needs to be served by water.
I'll look at my notes and from the meeting and see. I don't have them with me tonight, but
I know some of the higher level things you need to have like walking facilities. You need to meet, there's like a checklist of things to be a complete street or a neighborhood designation or something like that. They had a checklist.
maybe that was tied to my question about expanding the village district to include the old motel site that burnt down. Because if we include that in the district, then that opens up doors.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that.
Yeah. That's so if we expand the designation area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is the village center.
Yeah, and maybe that should be an action that we should add to that, because I think that's important to make that larger.
Yeah. Maintain. So we could just say maintain and review the designation program because it should be reviewed. We've been part of this program, but as long as I've been here, we've never used it for anything.
Right.
So yeah, we could probably expand it or change it or at least revisit it to the point where we're all educated about it again and then can utilize it. So yeah, I can change that to maintain or review. I'll change the word somehow.
Okay.
Mike, I don't know if you remember this too, but when this designation thing first came up, I was under the impression that either state or region or somebody basically said, this is your village center. Because it didn't agree with what we thought was a village, and it cut both ends off or whatever when they came up with the distinction, and that was, I think, basically for funding.
Those are the designated village centers, yes.
So
They're really small. They're not the actual boundaries of the.
exactly. So I mean, we're looking to expand the boundaries, but is that going to be recognized by the state in that same program?
As
Or is
long
that
as we
just
hit
from
the
our-
criteria, that's why I asked that question to Jason when he was here, because he talked about, things you can do if you're in the village designated area. And I said, what about the motel site there?
Right.
You talk about affordable housing, it's level, it's graded. It probably has water.
Yeah.
Just gotta make the sewer work somehow. Anyway,
And convince the
I
people
don't
to
know
let
if
it
we
happen.
could expand the designation and still get the benefits from the.
we're trying. And so then number 3, Ryan, it says here, work with the Mount Scottney Regional Commission, understand the potential benefits of Tier 1B, which could be beneficial for this whole day village revitalization. So that's part of that first comment. I wonder if those two just can combine together. 2 and 3 become 2.
Yeah, or I could separate one into designation program and one into Act 250 tier system.
That's probably a
because
better idea.
that
So we
would
don't
clarify
get
that.
into that.
Yeah,
Because that whole thing that they're shoving down our throat is sort of, we got to figure out how we're gonna work around it or work with it. Not sure I know that answer. I don't know that answer. And then number 4, that's really in the select board hands. I'm thinking you already have a designated SB action. Because there's the ongoing studies and
right. And I mean, I think there's opportunity for overlap on any of these things.
right.
They're just sort of the primary party who's doing that work.
All right.
Well, 1.3.3 will be there for about 7 months. It's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Those other categories from 1.3 to 3.3, those all look good. Moving down into protected land and habitat, and all that.
Yeah, I didn't really have any comments on the habitat one.
Howard and Mike, you guys got anything on this? Working landscape, soils. Surface waters and buffers.
I had to stop and think for a moment that we do have a pond construction bylaw. It's been a long time since
It should be revisited.
yeah,
Where are you reading?
on 2.21,
Yeah.
line 1 there.
PC action evaluate the efficacy of, yes, right.
I'm guessing it's pretty antiquated.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so that goes on the list.
Mhm.
Don't we already have shoreline protection? In place?
Right, and I think, and it's worth reviewing whether it's too much of a hamstring. Is it serving its purpose? Is it not specific enough?
We should look at that again.
Okay.
Because that,
It's complicated the way that it's written.
Yeah.
It actually is horrible the way that it's written. It's
It's
so
so
confusing with the buffer and the setback from the buffer and the way that it's all called out. I mean, even if we didn't change the regulation, it could be reduced to 2 sentences instead of the half page.
Josh should be 25 feet from the top of the slope with the stream, period, or whatever the number.
Yeah, and it should be standard for whatever it is. Like, I think that's where we can review what is the purpose and is it doing that?
Okay. 2.2.2 is a big one. I know, Howard, you've been,
6 years now.
What is six? maybe we could do something with
7
it.
now.
Maybe we could do something with that in
Well, I'm
2026.
You know, it's frustrating, you know, to say, you know, to go ahead and create it when basically all we have to do is adopt it. But then after we adopt it, now we have to go back and amend the town plan, and it's another series of.
You mean to add
Public
language to it, or you mean to change this?
No, I mean, you know, the fact that in the town plan, it just says to come up with this, and we've already basically, we haven't adopted it. We've got it in place.
But we don't need to go back and change the town plan once it's done, though.
Well,
Because this is just a checklist of that we're hopefully all of these actions will be checked off, and so we're not going to amend it every time we complete something.
yeah,
But the language that needs to be in there, that's already in there, right? In terms of there's like a paragraph about it.
Because the things we're working on, these action plans are separate from the town plan, so that's why we're not having to go back and throw this stuff in there, cause.
Sorry, say that one time.
No, I'm sorry, I just got tripped up on that one right here, where we don't have to go back and add things into the town plan. I thought some of this stuff was things that we have to go back.
Oh yeah, no, there are some things that we'll have to amend in the town plan. I'm just saying that once we cross off an action item, we don't need to amend the town plan to say that this is no longer an action item, it's done.
Okay, I just tripped over that in my head pretty good, it's like, hold on.
But I want to confirm, Howard, that the language that you need for the aquifer protection stuff is already in there, right? It's in the flood resiliency. You had written up a paragraph or something that needed to be added.
yeah, I had copied the state regulation, and then I had amended that based on what the state has amended, but they had amended it twice since it was published.
Okay.
So I picked up on those amendments, and that's the part that I had, you know, typed out separately or something and handed to you.
And that's in here?
That's in the document that I gave you. Now, I don't think we've gone as a board and looked at it, to vote on it.
Oh, okay.
Gotcha.
Is that something that we ought to do for this update, or that's its own project on its own? We should just sort of isolate that.
You know, all we have to do is take that state regulation, add in that paragraph or whatever,
And we're
and
done.
present it to the board and adopt it. I mean, it's basically it's the state model regulation with those amendments that they themselves made. So it's just the newest.
Right, so we're gonna adopt the regulation as a bylaw.
Right, correct. Right.
The language in the town plan, because we were gonna amend the town plan and the zoning bylaws.
Right.
The zoning bylaws have not been done,
Correct.
but the town plan language has been included in this. Right?
Yes, okay.
So I'm asking, I don't know.
Now, last time I looked at it, and I haven't seen it here, but it said, the town plan, the last one said that this has not been accomplished. There is no current protection of the water supply, et cetera. And I just wanted to make sure that wording came out before we re-adopt it.
I'm pretty sure
With
saying
all
it doesn't
the
exist.
overlay stuff that we've made, that.
The overlay district, I thought we had already done too, but
Yeah.
again, I don't know if that's been adopted by this board and the board of selectmen. I don't know if we went to public hearing about.
I think all that stuff's still sitting in the actual, waiting to send the actual town plan up now for the public
But
hearing.
that should be in the town plan because it's part of the maps.
Right.
So,
So it should be its own project. We will isolate that as the
Right.
own.
right.
All right.
We might get it done this year.
I just didn't want the town plan to go to print saying we don't have it. So if you say it's a project or an
Yeah.
action, that's fine, but just not something that specifically says, no, we don't have it.
Yeah. Let me just check and make sure.
I always have to make a copy of the town plan with me for some reason. It's not bringing it to me.
The first time you didn't.
I know. I don't know why I took it out. It's been cleaning house at the end of the year. But,
I just downloaded new copies from my computer too, but I couldn't find my own. By the way, I was very happy on how the website was set up for being able to get that stuff. It was quick and easy for a change.
yeah.
Refreshing. The scenic resources, we're definitely gonna be touching a lot in that one going forward.
I have a comment on.
Howard, the current chapter does not include language saying that there's no,
Okay.
yeah, so it's good.
Yeah.
I think I used a few negatives in that sentence.
Yeah, right.
So under scenic significant 2.3,
Yeah.
number 4, PC and SB action, it says the planning commission in consultation with the select board should develop guidelines to direct local participation in section 248 proceedings related to solar facilities. That also should be 248A, and we ought to add cell towers in there too, because it's under a different.
Yes.
Section.
Good catch.
And stick the word wireless telecommunication facilities.
I see where Dr. Murray might have come up with the actions for the scenic stuff here in section 2.3, number 3. Consider legislation to regulate the maintenance of electric distribution lines, minimize tree clearing along roadways with designated scenic view sheds, and then also consider adopting bylaws for the protection of scenic resources.
So it's only considered.
Yeah, I see where the line was connected.
Yep, I absolutely understand his point of view. I mean, going back to the whole topic, the whole reason for doing that was for solar fields and wind and telecommunications. That was the whole.
That was the reason to be so thorough about it.
Yes.
But the town plan also, I mean, the way that the statute calls out, the town should inventory their scenic resources. So
Right.
the other thing is just to say, these are our scenic resources.
But it doesn't say create the statute doesn't say we have to create a bylaw to protect. Right. Right. So I don't know if that should be in there.
What that action,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you think take out, the town should consider, wait, no, that's not.
Number
Maintain
2.
Sorry.
I mean, that was never. Well, okay.
Consider adopting a bylaw for the protection of scenic resources. You don't think that we should consider a
Well,
bylaw?
we have it in the town plan, and the reason it's in the town plan is solely for 248.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, how does everyone else feel about that?
I think it
Take
has
2 out?
a huge
Well,
potential for unintended consequences.
Thinking back on what Dr. Murray said, we're not really creating bylaws to protect the scenic resources. I mean, we're not putting something in zoning that says you can't build here or anything, are we?
Right, well, yeah, no, not with what we're talking about here in adopting a town plan.
Right.
But I think it's something that's on the table, whether we should have a discussion about a bylaw or not. And if the consensus of the board is no, we should not be talking about a bylaw related to protecting scenic resources, it should come out. But if it's a discussion that should be had, then it should stay.
Right.
So it's up to the board, whatever you think.
Remember those old check sheets we had when we were doing subdivisions and everything? Where it'd be like, does this approach on wetlands? Is it a historic or scenic resource or anything like that? The DRB still goes through that stuff, correct?
Mhm.
For being able to trigger if it's near it, so they would know. And I don't think we've had any instances where that's triggered. Not really, I don't have my finger on the pulse over there so much, but is it something that's popped up? Ever?
It hasn't come up. One could foresee it if there was a development that was proposed that would impact a scenic resource. Even without a bylaw, I've seen DRBs deny applications on the basis that it doesn't align with the town plan, with the goals of the town plan.
So there's already some level of protection in there.
I don't know.
Even
We
though,
we don't have a site plan review. Our site plan review doesn't take into consideration scenic resources. I don't think the subdivision regulations really do.
You want to be careful with a vagueness that allows the manipulation and of the interpretation of zoning or bylaw. Because you never know who you're gonna have there and what their personal agenda might be, and sometimes they can get caught up in that. And if the languages aren't clear in the bylaws, this is what you can do, this is how you do it, yada, yada, yada. When you wander into some sort of vagueness, that can,
It's called environmental court. That's the bigness.
well, yeah, you're gonna end up with extra costs there. You're gonna end up with unhappy people.
Well, I know DRB has asked for some more specificity in these things too, as guidance. You know, if it's really vague, they don't know how to interpret it,
But
so, or apply it.
Well, that's why I just think,
But that's a true statement about everything that we do. It
Yes.
needs to be clear like that.
yes, yes.
But specific to this issue, is this something that this board wants to take up as a discussion or not? Because if it's in there, then it's something that I would say we should have a discussion about it. And if we don't want to have a discussion about it, then it should come out.
it was never, when I started down this path, it was never anything about a bylaw.
That's not what this inventory was, but the town plan, this is talking about something different than just the inventory of scenic
You're
resources.
talking about a bylaw.
Yeah, the question is, should there be a regulatory protection for scenic resources or not?
And I think that to what Brian was saying, the original thought of where we came down with that was with the grander scope of the Act 248.
Right, and so
I
separate
don't-
from that,
Long story
we're
short,
all
I
on the same
think we
page
should
on
have-
We're talking about the scenic view. If someone wants to build in that scenic view, that's the whole purpose of having a bylaw that says thou shalt not build in that scenic view or some form of that.
yeah, and
Based on
basic,
this-
I mean, to simplify, my question is, should there be regulatory protections for scenic views or not? Scenic resources, I should say, it's beyond.
I think that's a really hard thing to do. And I mean, wow. I mean, you take a lot or a group of lots where the guy on the top's got a scenic view, you know, looks out and he builds his house. And then somebody sells a lot right below him and somebody builds a house right in the middle of his view.
And he builds it taller than his house. Blocks the view.
You know,
Big mound.
It's happened.
I know.
I know, it's.
I just look.
And that even is more specific to an individual as opposed to public resources that are shared by everyone.
Yes.
I
I think it's a worthy conversation, which is why it's in.
Well, let's put it on I'm just feeling uncomfortable putting it in here.
It's just a suggested action item in the
Yeah,
zone.
it says considered.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
here's the way I would be happier with that. Personally, I don't wanna see it in there, but if it is gonna be in there, just consider adopting bylaws for scenic resources.
How about even better? Just put in there,
How about a conversation about it?
have a discussion
Yeah.
about the adoption.
Yeah, then that's
I really
nothing. Then you got nothing.
How about just, okay, I see what you're saying. Action is consider adopting a bylaw for protection of scenic
What
resources.
is the downside of considering adopting a bylaw?
Well,
A perception that we want to,
Right.
and
think
the
that's-
and regulations are bad. So
I'm just thinking about what Dr. Murray said earlier, and that obviously is the perception. Is that this is gonna become a bylaw and
Right.
people are gonna tell you you can't build in your own yard.
yeah, once you end up on that list, that you're scenic,
Right.
We're screwed.
you
no,
know.
I totally understand the concern.
Yeah.
And I totally believe that if we adopt a bylaw, it will be in people's best interest, will be thought hard about. But the question is, should we have that conversation, or is the regulatory protection of scenic resources not on the table? Because if it's not, it should come out.
I don't know if we have the statutory authority to regulate.
That also is probably the initial starting point of that conversation when we start considering adopting it. But if we're not going to consider adopting, we don't even need the.
So,
Yeah.
kind of reel us in here for a second. All I've heard so far is reasons why we shouldn't.
Well, and what I was just gonna say is, we could take this out, and it doesn't mean we can't still have the conversation.
That's true. It's just not on our priority.
Right.
I think we should have the discussion, but I don't think it should be on this list.
All right. This should
Because I
come
think
on.
it sends the wrong message.
Yeah, it's on our radar, you know, we'll have the conversations.
We're definitely gonna have a conversation.
And that's one more action item done now. Now,
The little one, we do.
Well, we did have a discussion.
yeah.
So Joe.
Now, while we're taking that off, we're taking off number 2, 3, and 4, or are we just taking off 2 and 3?
Well,
Because if we're not gonna make a
Three and
bylaw,
four.
would they be able to do?
the problem with number 3 is so I've worked for public utilities and these clearings of rights of way. I've involved in projects where there's been litigation where people they come in, they're gonna clear the right of way and it just, you end up in court over the whole thing. But if it's defined right away, it's really hard to regulate the maintenance of those corridors. So you essentially really can't, because it's health, safety, welfare.
Right.
So I'm not
So
really sure.
the thing that pops into my head is on Center Road going down the strip. They alternate the sides that the posts are on, so the lines basically go over the
Yep.
road as opposed to clearing a strip along the side of the road.
Right.
I don't know if there's any statutory ability for the select board to consider a policy related to that, or whether it has any weight. But that was sort of where my mind came from. If it's in a scenic location, are there things that can be done to minimize the impact, like that alternating sides, or through the center, Weathersfield Center? This is even more of a stretch. There's the power lines that are off the road there.
I think that's a question for the attorney.
Right, but so we're not going to ask the attorney if it's not on the list. Though.
Well, but not only that, but you're talking about main roads that already have power lines run, correct? So that's not like that's gonna change.
Well, it could change. It did change. Center Road changed.
Yeah, they could realign the poles all on one side.
Yeah.
They have done that in other towns. It's rare, but that typically happens if they go from a 1-phase to a 3-phase line. Then they usually will do something like that.
It's just something that I picked up on at some point. I was like, it's kind of nice that they're going back and forth, because along the other side they had to clear a whole strip and it's all growing up underneath, and
Yep.
I think that resulted in a huge change. I mean, it was before my time, but I think there was some people upset about the changes of Center Road once that was all cleared. It used to be treed.
I don't.
I don't know. That just related to that.
I know Green Mountain Power too, for the last couple of years, has been considering moving a lot of their lines that were, through the woods.
Right.
They want to bring those out, and run right down the side of the street.
Right,
So
yeah.
that's an obvious visual impact too.
Yeah, because when a line goes down in my pasture, it's hell getting in there.
Right,
I
which
said-
makes sense from their perspective, and the question is, are the scenic resources something that we should be concerned about? Specifically, like the center, the meeting house area, those poles are behind. You can imagine that the company wants them to come out to the road. Is that going to have a negative impact on the scenic resources there?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And should the town look into whether or not they can do anything about it?
Sure. Why not?
I guess that's what that's getting at. But if I have to explain it in this long thing, then maybe it's not a clear enough action.
Well, the town fought years ago to realign the center road in front of the church.
Right.
Because it was supposedly ran right through the front lawn, and
Right.
they argued and got it moved over. Got land for the Dan Foster House, donated land or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
so it was moved, so.
I don't know, Ryan. I mean, I think it's certainly something to consider down the road when we have absolutely nothing else to do.
Well, it's not a planning commission.
Oh, it's select board. Well,
Because it would be a policy, it wouldn't be a zoning related.
yeah, it's an act.
It's just something that so we're looking at the goal of
Right.
maintain the scenic beauty and avoid development which degrades the scenic value of the identified resources. And so if we're gonna have a goal, either that goal is being met with things as they are, which might be the case, or we can do something to work towards that goal. So we can either do nothing, which might be the answer, or these are some actions that I just thought up about how we might achieve that goal.
I think you ought to leave it in there for now.
Oh, we passed that one enough. Everybody good with that? Okay. So.
I don't know, under 2.3, I'm not quite sure how you would accomplish that. You have thoughts on, you wrote it, Ryan, what were your
What
thoughts?
the goal? Identify and maintain the presence and integrity of existing historical resources.
Yeah, down the line, 2.3, number 2.
When developing zoning bylaws, the town should consider means of encouraging the continued use and maintenance of historic structures.
How are you gonna do that?
That came from something. Um,
This seems like something that should be a paragraph in like a plan or something that would make something eligible for grants.
Set to avoid a change of use of some of the historic structures,
But we might want to encourage that, you know, if we have a large house in the village.
right.
You know, it's big and the guy that has it says, you know, I can't afford to live here by myself, but you know what? I could put a duplex in here, you keep the character of the house, it preserves it, it generates income, and you can fix the house.
As long as you can preserve the character.
That's the key.
Yeah.
Are these for things that are actually registered on a historical registry
I think
or what's?
it says
definition
things that are
of historic?
identified, so it would be identified in the town plan.
So again, are these things that a landowner is determined to be historic, or is it something that a committee is determined to be
Usually,
historic?
if you want to apply for historic designation, you have to make the application, because our house, you know, is one of the earliest settlements in Weathersfield. Well, it could be listed.
Mhm.
We never did anything about it. Not that it really means much,
Right, well, so-
besides the dick and day, and it opens up maybe some grant funding for us.
Mhm. Guess that kind of comes back to still though, the action, like, do we really have the area to do bylaws for that?
Well, that was my question, is I'm not sure how you would write that.
Well, yeah, so Brian's point about allowing for different uses of a property that would be useless otherwise, that would be one way of.
That's the only way I can think of it. It's almost like, you know, adaptive reuse of historic properties.
Yeah.
So maybe you say that if you want to, say to developing zoning bylaws, consider developing regulations that would allow for adaptive reuse.
Bylaw is basically
I was-
specifying you
yeah.
have to maintain the character.
Yeah.
Adaptive reuse, yeah,
Adaptive.
because I'm thinking of like an instance where you've got an old farmhouse where the burn's on one side of the road and the house is on the other,
Yeah.
and they're no longer a farm. You know, they're subdivided, there's houses all around, but you
And
got
maybe
this
it's
barn
not
sitting
on the
there
same property
that's-
anymore.
that's starting to dilapidate. That barn could be, I would get nervous about encouraging continued use. Could be misled to, okay, it's a burn, it's gotta stay a burn.
Right.
So getting the adaptive language in there that allows you to convert that into a house, so maybe that
could be
becomes,
very cool too.
yeah.
Yeah, barn dominiums.
Yeah.
Or
So-
There,
So, yeah, I like the idea of the adaptive
Adaptive
language.
reuse. Yeah, because that's a great example actually, Mike, because we have that in town.
Yeah.
And sometimes that barn isn't part of that property anymore, and down it goes, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think you could spin up an adaptive reuse? clause?
Yeah, and honestly, I can't recall where my head was at when I wrote it, so.
Well, that's the only thing I could think of. When I read that, I went, okay, what do you really mean?
Yeah, I don't remember what I was thinking about.
Then the next one that pops up for me now is we talk about, I think it's the goal 1, develop a master plan for the Center Memorial Grove and a policy to administer the use and maintenance of the property. Select board just did that,
Select board created the committee to do that.
and policy.
Oh, they did a policy?
Yes.
They did a policy for that board and functions. And that
Yeah.
board is going to create a master plan for the,
Okay.
yeah, so it is, okay, it's in
Because,
process.
yeah, the master, wouldn't that policy like sort of be kind of the.
Well, the policy
That's what
doesn't,
it
the policy doesn't talk about how the property is administered, like how is it mowed and how are
Right.
trees planted and any of that, which is what.
Yeah, just
we're
the
trying to
highlights
fix.
of what we wanted to make sure were included and considered is,
Yeah, it basically directs the board
yes.
and sort of talks about it can be all that stuff.
Committee.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. All right, good.
I like seeing something for the tree maintenance. That's something that's needed to be a big thing. Well, all over the place. That's more of a conservation than us.
I don't have any comments on the first two.
Moving on to air resources. 2.5 on page 97. That's pretty self-explanatory right there. Economic development.
So if we can just go back to 3 for a moment here.
Yeah.
So Ryan, I like that you added at the end here because you talked about the Crown Point Road and, full disclosure, a big chunk of the Crown Point goes across our property and then we have problems with people not obeying the Crown Point Road and riding their ATVs up through the other parts of the woods and raising heck, but I like that you put in there, landowner rights. Because then the challenge is, so they come in and clear, but as the landowner, I'd like them to say, I'm coming in to clear. I'm not gonna prohibit them, but I would like to at least set some ground rules or something, so they don't have cutting the logs and rolling them over the hill and ends up down in the stream or something that we're trying to.
There really should be a policy created for that as well, because the reality is this. Even though that was adopted, it was not laid out. And probably could not stand a lawsuit if like with Roy Mark or Dave Moore. I know that they tried to go cut the trails and both of those individuals have said, no, not here, over there. Well, no, this is where it is. No, you have no proof of that. Okay, it's not laid out. So get over there. I don't want you over here. Get over there. So, so I think. I don't know if this, I didn't read all of this yet. If it doesn't have a policy, there should be a recommendation for a policy to be created for that. And I do know that there is some language in the class 4 road policy that addresses it, but I also know that the highway superintendent wants nothing to do with it. He does not want to be included in those decisions.
I've talked to him and he absolutely no way, he'll say.
Nope. So that does, we need to be, doing something about
It
that.
needs to be addressed.
Yes, it does.
Right, that's what it needs to be, there needs to be something definitive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it does, and it needs to start with common understanding on both sides of the issue, because
Right.
it's all obvious and it just sort of simmers there. I don't know.
Right.
I've been dealt with it before.
Because nobody wants to step on that landmine.
I do.
I do. Tell me how you feel, Ryan.
I mean, I think a big part was just getting the statement that you gotta get landowner permission to go on their land.
Right.
I understand it's the right of way, but
Right.
it's the right of way on their land.
Right.
And you need their permission. Yeah, oh no, it's class 4 road, I can do what I want. Oh, yeah, okay, that might technically be true too, but let's get along here first.
And that's exactly the problem, Mike, there's no respect.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry,
No, that's good.
I just wanted to be sure that because we're gonna get pushback on that, that's not in there.
Boy, we're sliding along now, aren't we? Are we down to the highway garage yet?
No.
Down third?
The last thing we were looking at was economic development. Oh, a quick comment since you said town clerk. I'm still sort of going back and forth about whether we include a paragraph or two about the town clerk and the listers. It seemed to make sense as I was going through it. I still think it makes half sense. I'm happy to get rid of it if the consensus is it probably doesn't fit. How do you guys feel? Brian, your mouth is moving.
I'm like, I don't think it makes a difference.
Okay, it's in there now. We should just stop fussing with it.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I think just.
What's the question?
What's that?
Should we get rid of the paragraph on the town clerk and the listers that's in the chapter?
Look, where,
It's just in the utilities facilities chapter. The last time we had gone over and added those in, and I had advocated for it, and I continued thinking about it, and that's the issue.
Now you
Start
don't
waking up
be
there.
there.
Well, I don't. I'm halfway. I'm like, I don't know.
Not really sure what it does for us.
It doesn't really do much, and I think the idea with the town plan, although it's called the town plan, it's really the town plan related to development and conservation. It's not the town plan for the town.
Right, it tells,
Which to me, I'm like the town. It says town plan should be the plan for the town, and it should include all these things. And there is some relation to development and zoning and economic development and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's tied, but maybe not clear
because you have to
enough.
follow the maps.
But
That's
yeah.
how it's tied.
I don't know. It's the kind of thing like whenever I write a plan, it's like I would totally redo it completely.
Well, you know what my comment was
No. What?
to, yeah, never mind. We went over.
To redo the town plan?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's,
No.
anyway, we'll talk about that another day.
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. Has it been 8 years?
Hey, we might actually finish this process in the next 8 years.
No, we're finishing it this spring. It's done.
I'll give you something to look forward to. By the time we get this done, there'll be another legislative session and there'll be 12 elements.
Oh, come on, Mike, it won't be 12, it'll be 16.
Okay, yeah, that'll probably double it.
Well, then we should probably hurry up and get the last of this going.
Yes.
Alright, let's jump on through this and fire on through either that or we're moving on to maps, because we've been on here for a minute. And it's already 8:30.
It's like, you know what, I'm pretty.
I'm already asleep. What are you talking?
Come on, Mike,
Huh?
pick it up,
Do what?
pick it up,
Pick what up?
get going.
Where? Home?
I think you should at least look at the things that I have stricken. Make sure that you're good with those changes.
I didn't see much.
It
Like
picks up a little
one-liners.
bit more in economic development.
Really?
There's a couple of actions there.
Because you struck the limit the density of businesses to sell products that cannot be sold to minors, tobacco, alcohol, cannabis is related paraphernalia.
We already have a bylaw for that.
Right.
Like that was from the last one and was accomplished.
Water thing that looks good. What's town manager's TM, correct?
Yes.
Sorry, it's getting,
I will probably need to make the code for this or I'll just spell stuff out more.
yeah, okay. Did you review under storm drainage and goals and action this goal with Ray?
Be more specific, where are you talking about? Under transportation or utility?
No, just under your,
Oh, storm drainage goals, okay.
yeah,
Should this be an action, what? Ask your question again?
so did you run that by Ray?
Did I run what by Ray?
That highlighted area, should this be an action?
Oh,
That's right.
goal, promote best practices in stormwater design. No. I read it and said, is this a goal or is this more like an action?
To me, it's an action, but.
Right,
When I see that, I instantly think to all of the site plans that go out and have to go through stringent stormwater and screening.
But there's triggers that do that, and then if you fall underneath it, you don't have to do it. So if you get a big subdivision, yeah,
Yeah. I've also seen.
it's just, the first word is an action that seems like it's doing something, not a goal. It doesn't, to me, it's not goal language.
right. How about number 3 under 5.4.1?
That's about to go right.
Hang on, let me
Oh,
write this
sorry.
down about Ray. I will ask Ray about this. All right, go ahead.
How does
What
everybody-
number?
Yeah, 5.4.1, number 3. How does everybody feel about that?
I don't like it.
Consider legislation to require underground installation of new or upgraded electric service lines.
I think when you do something like that, you could be actually, adding a cost to a project that's unnecessary. I think it should be best left to, I mean,
Encourage.
yeah, encourage, you encourage, but that's not an action.
If it was just encourage, I'd take the whole line out.
Yes,
Should.
I think
yeah,
that's because that's an expensive deal.
it can be, that's my point, what is your distance? You know, I mean, cause that's not involved, that's not, I mean, I guess you get there with your legislation, but.
Well, I think of too, I had an electric upgrade done at my house. I have overhead lines coming in. They had to run a new line. I have a shiny new transformer that I'm the only person on. Somebody hooks up to it, I'm shooting it. But I had to buy that. Now, say my pole's across the road from me. With this being in here, having to consider legislation on that, I would now have to go down the pole, dig underneath the road, come all the way through to get that in just because of a electric upgrade. That's a hell of an upgrade cost for what?
Well, I think the thing then would be to say it's not feasible.
Well,
Yeah.
to be honest, it can go either way, the cost. It depends on, again, on the distance, what you're doing. Because I think it's up to like 120 or 150 feet or something like that. You can use a certain size wire. Once you go put it on that, then you gotta jump to the next size wire. So now your wire cost goes up, your conduit cost goes up, your digging costs go up. When you're doing electrical lines, you've gotta be down. You gotta dig basically 2.5 feet down, put 6 inches of sand in, then your conduit, then cover it with another 6 inches of sand and tape. I know I did it.
Yeah,
But
that's a lot.
I wanted to, I didn't, because of where mine was and how mine ran, I did not want the overhead line coming into my driveway. It was just one more thing for a tree to take down.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I think it can,
But that was your decision.
that was my decision. But I own my own tractor too, so I dug my own ditch. And I had the sand brought in and I moved it.
Mhm.
It depends on,
I think we ought to take it out.
Yeah,
and then again, when you go overhead, you gotta go 3 or 4 poles. That's a chunk, you might decide it's cheaper to go on the ground.
Most per pole.
right,
Big
but it's your decision to make, not our
Yeah.
decision to make.
Yeah, I really do think that that's still a decision that should be individualized.
Let's take it out.
Because personally,
Encouraging isn't gonna do it. It's gonna be, like I did the same thing you did, Mike.
Yeah.
I dug my own ditch, but it also cost me an extra transformer. And now,
And anybody that's going through that whole process is gonna have their finger on the pulse of what's going on. They'll
yes,
okay,
yes.
I can't imagine doing a haphazard, I'm just gonna upgrade my elevator for the hell of it. The under 5.7.2, the goal of modernizing the records through digitization, has that been completed?
Aren't these the sections you're talking about? You're not even sure you want to keep.
Town clerk and listers.
Yeah, under top part, 5.7.2.
and you have what happened to the highway garage? Just never came up with anything, or?
What do you mean?
It says
gone?
highway garage town clerk. 5.6.2.
Yes, I had that before.
Sounds like Ray's got it under control down there.
Cause I know there's the salt shed and. A few other things,
The salt shed is approved to have a new one in there, right?
right, they're looking for funding, but. I understand.
And that might be part of the reason to keep this stuff in here on the town clerk at least. Is
Funding.
yeah,
Yeah,
grants to digitalize,
cause if it ain't in there,
yeah.
Right, as Hank reminds us all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm convinced.
Well, actually, number one, TC action, continue digitizing land records, vital records, and other long-term documents.
That's an ongoing process.
Yeah, it is. So do we need to have the, okay, you want I remove my question about striking modernizing records? Sorry.
Oh, good.
Takes a while to get there, but we get there slowly.
Ryan, do you think that something's missing from the highway garage?
Yeah,
All of this stuff was just brought up from, you had like a long list of things and I sort of sorted
yeah, I
it.
think we're
I
missing
think something got dropped
This
out.
document, there's nothing there, it just says 5.62.
Yeah, I think there
garage.
was the salt shed, there's a whole bunch of stuff going
Let me
on.
see if I can find something.
Generator maintenance, so.
Right, there was all kinds of stuff. I remember seeing
Fuels,
a couple of iterations ago.
there was a big thing about a ventilation fan at 1.2, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, there's 2 actions under highway garage. At least in this iteration of it. Implement the recommendations of the 2025 highway garage study. Improve the town highway garage with energy upgrades, heating system improvements.
And the salt
Blah,
shed
blah,
would be
blah,
in
blah.
there too.
There's nothing, in the paragraph, it says the small salt storage structure requires outdoor trucking. A 2025 study has been completed and approved. And then the action is to implement those recommendations.
Right, but they were also, I think Ray told me he was seeking grants for that, or in the process of. But
So there should be an action for
Yeah,
seeking grants.
I think so.
Okay.
Or you could make a general statement saying, grants for the improvement of the highway garage and facilities.
I think there is state money for it for environmental reasons. They don't want the salt runoff
Right, for the rain.
from the rain, so. Blue eyes crying in the rain.
He's singing, must be after 8:30.
Yeah. My eyes blue or red.
Yeah, there's a couple of things missing. There's a section on fire stations. All right, I gotta take a look at that.
So I'm gonna pose a quick question for us here. Since we have gotten all the way down to highway garage, why don't we break off the rest of this for the next meeting? And table maps, because I think Hank should be here for that.
Absolutely.
And go straight to planning session priorities or discussion of theater. Actually, we really don't even have a time to go into the strategic planning other than finishing up our goals, kind of.
Well, I think
That's-
the goals are gonna sort of dictate the strategic planning
Yeah.
to some degree, but I wanted to bring back in the document that we had sort of a running list of things that we wanted to work to.
We literally have 4 pages and this is done.
Well, then let's finish up.
I don't know, I'd like your idea, I'd love to go home, but on the other hand, I'd love.
Well, I just don't want us to get dragged down 5 other rabbit holes that we still have options to go down.
You have rabbit holes? I got a shotgun. Shoot that rabbit.
There it goes.
Right, so what are we doing?
We're gonna continue on down from into the town clerk. So there's some stuff that you're gonna pull back up for highway garage, Ryan, and we'll just see a reiteration of that when it comes through.
Yes.
How about fire department? Yeah.
Yeah, there was a fire station section that's just not in here. So there might be some, I need to revisit that chapter and just see what's missing.
So are you suggesting we should just wait on the rest of this?
Why don't we skip utilities facilities, go to transportation, and we got the rest of those. That should be all complete, because those are much simpler chapters. That
Okay.
Okay.
Things.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
We'll go back to U and F.
So starting at number 6?
Good.
Yeah.
I always love working with transportation. It's like so well done.
It's late, Ryan, but I'll ask this question anyway. On page 106. What's MRGP? On
Page 106.
yeah, it's about halfway, 3/4 of the way down. It says goal, maintain compliance with MRGP. Trying to remember what that is.
Oh, I know, MRGP?
MG.
Oh,
MG, I haven't found the MG. I remember when I sat down with Ray and he used that acronym.
That's
it's
what-
municipal road something program.
Yes, yes, okay.
Municipal grants and.
So can I just ask to have that spelled
Something like
out
that.
for people that are not as smart as me,
I
or
suppose
smarter than
we
me?
would do that.
Because I'm lost there on some of these acronyms.
Fair point.
I got V-Train, so that's pretty good.
Oh, municipal road general permit.
Yes, that's it.
Good luck with so the select board for the amended class 4 roads project. God bless them with that.
That's the one that's gonna deal with the,
Ground point.
right now with Crown Point Road, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said. God bless them, with that one.
Let's start somewhere.
Yeah, so moving on to education.
No,
Yeah, that's it.
sounded better.
So the education, our education folks looked at this. Sorry, I forget who's on that, but
was
and
mostly-
they're pretty good with this, or they're okay?
Yeah, yes, they, their only comment was that one paragraph that we had.
Yeah.
We chose to keep.
Right, okay.
To expand the education.
I don't know if they've seen it. I think all these goals were in there one way or another. I'm not sure if they've seen it organized this way, and they haven't seen it since I assigned principal. I'm not sure if that has any real authority, but these actions that I had principal under, he seemed like the appropriate person to be sort of administering that action.
So do you want to run by them again,
Yeah,
or?
because I thought we axed out the plan for improvements for school security. I seem to remember that was a little bit of a discussion.
We didn't end up removing it. It was in a paragraph.
Yeah, it's
And
kinda like
it
tactical,
became, and so the change was that it became a goal and an action.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Moving on to energy.
Fortunately, under goals, reduce emissions of greenhouse gases, I'm not sure how many incentives are left for the development of appropriately scaled renewable energy resources. I think a lot of that has gone away.
That's done now. Should we just strike that then?
I,
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't
that's
know.
fine. Just.
I mean, the world can change in a couple of years too.
Mhm.
I think that's such a moving target. I'm
Yeah.
not really sure that we just should take it out of there.
Which one is that, Brian?
Provide information on incentives for development of appropriate scaled renewable energy resources. Most of that funding is gone.
and that's not really something that we need to provide. That's
mean,
the town,
typically-
usually you're gonna look those, like the.
Well, the solar guys, they're the biggest ones. Like if you want to say, oh, you can get this and this and this.
Yeah, I would never consider going to the town asking which one would.
Or if you're gonna buy an electric car, they'll say, well, these are the incentives. They're
Right.
on that.
Yeah, exactly, the people selling it are gonna tell you,
Right,
So
so
I agree with you. Yeah, most of that stuff's gone.
it's,
state branded a little bit of work.
okay. Now we're down to Howard's favorite topic.
I guess this is generic enough to include that, but I mean, but the basic thing is that to get that better ranking from FEMA for reimbursement, we have to adopt that that state plan it's already written. It's a combination of all the FEMA regulations and the floodplain.
So should we say that in here, Howard?
Well, that's what I would,
That should really be a select board topic, right?
well, no, it's a
It'd be a
bylaw,
bylaw.
so we have to adopt it as a bylaw.
And then select boards, so do PC, SB. And
It says, so the last goal there is
Yes.
fully integrate the flood resiliency planning and state and federal flood hazard regulations into the Weathersfield zoning bylaws.
There you go.
Well, it's rather than just identify, I mean, they've already been identified in that document, so it's just.
Where are you reading that number 2, identify river
Yeah,
corridor
right.
and fluvial erosion hazard? Yeah.
so on
So
number,
I think that's more like, the Conservation Commission's tasked with inventorying and, keeping track of what's what. I think if there's recurring problems that are coming up, that's something that should be,
So for number-
noted beyond just the broader scale
Right.
of what the state's mapped. Go ahead, Brian, sorry.
I'm sorry, I get all excited. For number 4, should we add the select board to that?
PCs, like develop you mean for the last one?
Yes, for number 4.
Yeah,
Or develop a regulatory process.
So Howard can go out and celebrate when we finally get
That
this done.
requires driveways to be the driveway one, is that what you're talking about?
no.
Number 4 on what?
Number 4 on the develop regulatory process.
Fully integrate the flood resilience, the one you just read.
That's number 2.
Oh,
Yes, number 2.
sorry. We need to fix that to say that, right?
Fully integrate that. Well, so all of the bylaws, our planning commission and the select board, by virtue of the select board adopts them, but I only included the planning commission because they're sort of the administrator of that.
Right.
There are some other things that the select board does that we won't even really be on that.
We both have to hold hearings on any bylaws.
Right, okay, good enough.
So if we do it and hold a hearing, it has to go to the select board anyway to be adopted.
Well, that's the last page.
We did it, guys.
All right,
And that wasn't terrible to finish getting through, so.
I'm going to suggest we table maps and strategic planning for the next meeting. Everybody fine with that still?
Yes, and let me just say, these maps I got earlier today weren't exactly what I had discussed. So there'll be some changes and other maps too. So don't worry too much about these ones.
Alrighty, discussion for items for future agendas. We already know what we're working on.
We have full plate.
We certainly do.
Yep. No additions.
We're making progress.
Definitely.
We're making progress here.
Yes.
Any other business that can be legally discussed?
Just to recap on timing, so we're gonna have another meeting this month. I guess the new goal would be to have a complete document for us to review. I suppose either at the next one or the first one in February, pushing our hearing to probably the beginning of March. I think that's where we're at right now, because it's a 30-day warning for when we have our final complete everything. 30 days, send it out to all the other towns and everything. So that's where we're kind of at, which I think is okay because we still have maps to do that we haven't talked about before that aren't even made yet. So just keep that in the back of your mind.
Right, I got a question for you. What do we have for changeover that we're looking at after March this year?
Changeover in terms of
Board members,
let's see what's on the.
do we have? I mean, I don't know if they're, I don't know who's up or right off the top of my head.
Yeah, terms expire, nobody has 2026 expirations. Mike Todd has 2027. That's the earliest one.
Party.
I'll leave until we get this done.
Well,
We're not done by 27, come on.
we're not done by 27, I'm gonna quit anyway.
Yeah, me too. on your own.
So there's no
All
turnover
right, I
on
just
board.
wanted to touch on that, so it won't, if we have the cruise, don't forget, the first Tuesday is election.
Oh,
So,
this next Tuesday is a holiday, I think. What holidays? I think we're closed. The town hall's closed next on the second, third Monday.
what day is that?
Martin Luther King Day or?
Yes.
Yeah.
So let's have our meeting on Tuesday.
Should we move it to
I
Tuesday?
don't think we should cancel the meeting for a week. Just you,
I'm good with a Tuesday, I can do a Tuesday. Tuesday, the next day works for me, okay?
would you be back for Wednesday, Brian?
I'm gone that week.
Oh, no, you have to cancel your plans.
Just think about this is
Well, divorce.
Oh,
Well, there's advantages to that too.
Couldn't afford to be living in your workshop.
Yeah, but I like you, so that's okay. I wouldn't make you sleep out there.
watch out for the
I'll
dog.
clear space for you.
Yeah, dog.
Down in the barn.
All right,
Sorry.
it's all good.
Well, but we gotta address that.
Move that to Tuesday?
Well, Brian's not gonna be here.
I'm right here.
Is that gonna matter?
I mean, would you be here on that Monday anyway?
No, you're gonna be, when are you gonna be gone?
I'm leaving on the 15th.
Which, I mean, I don't think there's a whole lot of new information coming.
And I can't, I'm not gonna be able to dial in. I would if I could, and I can't even dial in.
I think we're not even gonna be holding the hearing on February 2nd anyway. Are you gonna be there? February 2nd?
Yeah, you're right.
So we're not even gonna be in the hearing state at that point. So we're gonna have a meeting then. Best case scenario, we get a hearing February 16th. I still think that's probably unlikely.
And that's President's Day.
Perfect. So let's
Yep.
just go. Let's
Let's become
tentatively let's say that March 2nd, which is the first meeting in March, is the earliest possible that we'll have a hearing, and we'll see if we can make that happen.
Is that gonna run in with the town?
Is,
or
I
town
would say,
meeting?
wait a minute, isn't election would be the third, wouldn't it?
And this will be set up for.
Yeah, that'll be set,
So we'd have to
this
be
up
upstairs.
on Monday.
Okay. Well,
Doesn't mean we
I'll
can't
just
do
make a
it.
note that we need to just confirm that everyone's
Okay,
good for
so-
more in that hearing.
Here, so Brian, since you're gonna be gone on the 15th, would it be beneficial for us to have? You're leaving on the 15th, you said?
Yep.
So would the 13th or 14th work for anybody for a meeting, and will that give you enough time, Ryan, to be able to? Get things ready, and can we even do that considering it's now 14 days for us to warn a meeting?
We can warn a meeting. That's fine. We couldn't hold the hearing.
Yeah,
But yeah, we can. You need 2 days for a meeting.
Okay,
We could do that. To whether or not I have enough time.
is it practical for us to do that, cause I don't want us to lose a whole nother cycle.
what's gonna be on the agenda for if we do it on the 20th? Ryan's gone, what's gonna be on the agenda?
Well, we're gonna get the utilities facilities goals into this document that were dropped off. We'll have new maps to look at, but those maps are basically like the you wanted to see a current land use map where we have our area type map, but then you wanted one that has like the different uses as point features. There's the transportation map that's probably not going to change much from the one that's in here. I don't think there's much of great consequence.
So if we have a special meeting on the 13th or 14th with just those 2 items, and we don't deviate from it. Would that be useful for everybody?
It's the 13th.
It'd have to be the 13th, okay. So if we did that on the 13th, just those 2 items, that's it, period. We could do it quick, be in and out, and to get us back on track for what we need to for our next meeting on the 20th. Where we could then continue down the road, even though Brian won't be here, cause. That makes sense?
What I was trying to narrow down is if we have a meeting on the 20th, what is it that Brian's gonna be missing?
Utilities and facilities, which he's done a lot of work on.
I mean, I could probably have stuff and send it over to Brian ahead of time anyway for that type of thing. Personally, I don't know exactly what needs to be done before the next meeting, but to do the 14th feels rushed.
I agree.
Okay.
I think I can share whatever with Brian, and he can give me comments whenever he can. And I don't think there'll be. It's not his last time to put in comments. We can have all the same
And
stuff
that was
again.
gonna be my next question,
Okay,
is there
yeah.
gonna be another meeting after that he'll be able to review?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Because the next meeting I'll be back for is the second.
Well, we better not get stuck in that day. It's Groundhog Day.
well, the second,
That's what you're saying is election.
yeah, okay, yeah, the second. So I'll make a motion that we have our next meeting on January 20th, 6:30, right Memorial Home.
Yeah, and if you send me things, I can comment and get them back to you.
We got to vote on that because we're changing your date.
Oh, second.
That's a standing date.
All right, so we have a motion to change the meeting date for the next meeting to January 20th. At Art Memorial Hall, 2026 at 6:30 PM. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed signify by saying nay. The motion is passed. Our next meeting will be on January 20th at 6:30.
Then we'll be back to regular schedule. I think that makes more sense.
Okay.
In the long run, I think it'll be easier for everybody.
While we're discussing that though, since the 16th of February is the office will be closed because it's President's Day. Will we still do our meeting here that night, or should we move it to Tuesday?
I think there was a reason that we can't hold a meeting on the day that the town office is closed.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to move or should we even address that now, or wait till we get there?
Well, you're gonna have to address. Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, I'm wrong. Yeah. I can make a motion that do we want to do that now?
I think we should wait until the meeting before.
Yeah, let's wait until the meeting before.
You know, update, you want to move it,
We won't lose track of it.
so just let me know.
Alrighty, motion to adjourn.
So
Negotiable, thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you all.
great job, Brian.
Thank you.
I took a nap somewhere in the middle of that meeting.
Hey, you did it before 9 o'clock, guys. Just before.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It's like when you drive in the car and don't remember the whole driving part.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
Number of times I've done that.